we'll move on now to our next presentation, which is Peggy Compton, and she'll be discussing how to, or developing the capacity of water action volunteers within Wisconsin. If you don't know Peggy, Peggy is the program manager for the Water Action Volunteers, Wisconsin statewide volunteer stream monitoring program, and she's been a state specialist in natural resources with UW Extension for more than 20 years. So Peggy, take it away.
All right, thanks, Tim. Thank you, everyone, for allowing me to be here with you this morning. Yes, I'm Peggy Compton with the University of Wisconsin-Madison's Division of Extension, Program Manager for Water Action Volunteers. And I'm super excited to be here this morning to tell you about a project that I've been working on with some of my great Extension colleagues in the last couple of years. I had the idea for this project kind of rattling around in my brain for quite a few years, probably 5 or more, maybe even 10. But I wasn't really sure how to frame it and how to get it off the ground. I did have an opportunity to put those thoughts together, especially after talking with one of my leadership and organizational development colleagues in Extension, Sarah Schlosser, who really helped me think about how to frame this. Other project partners include Amulya Rao and Farron Chen, evaluation specialists with the Natural Resources Institute of Extension. So first of all, for those who might not know, I'm going to give you just a little bit of background about the Water Action Volunteers program. What is it? WAV is Wisconsin's citizen monitoring program, volunteer monitoring program, to involve volunteers in the assessment of their local streams and rivers, basically collecting data on their local streams and rivers and submitting that data, reporting that data. The program is co-funded and co-administered by the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources and UW Extension. And we have 2 staff, usually myself with Extension and 1 person in the Department of Natural Resources. That full-time position is vacant, but we're still getting support on data management in particular from the DNR. So that's a great partnership because we have the outreach and education piece of Extension and the data and monitoring expertise of the DNR. So that's a great partnership that really I think keeps the WAVE program strong. We annually have around 500 or more participants in the WAVE program. A few other things about the program. Volunteers get started initially by completing an online introduction or an online course. And then that's usually followed by about a 5-hour in-person in-stream training to learn the methods for this volunteer monitoring for the stream assessments. Of course, in the time of a pandemic, we've had to be flexible and try some other options on that. But that's how volunteers get started, preparing them to monitor the items that you see there in the top bullet: stream temperature, transparency, flow, dissolved oxygen, biotic index, and a habitat assessment. In subsequent years, many of our volunteers get involved in additional projects that we call special projects. They are options for possibly doing surveying of aquatic invasive species that's more in depth than the baseline or beginning monitoring, deploying temperature loggers, collecting water samples for nutrient analysis. And many of our volunteers do several of those other additional projects. The volunteer collected data is stored in the state's surface water database, right alongside data that is collected by natural resource professionals such as our DNR biologists. That is a really high point, I think, of our program. The data is publicly accessible once it goes into that statewide database, so it can be used by natural resource professionals. It can be used by anyone who, any citizen, any local organization, community planners, natural resource managers, and of course by the volunteers. We also, in the WAVE program, we generate specific reports for each volunteer's station. And those reports, data reports, are posted on our WAVE website to make it especially easy for the volunteers as well as anyone else to find that data, and there's an interpretation of the data in that report. So a few things about our volunteers, and this kind of builds on what you heard Rachel talking about through surveys, through anecdotal, knowing the volunteers and working with them for in various capacities for myself over the last 20 years. We know some things about our volunteers. First of all, they're very committed to volunteer monitoring, and they're passionate about the water resource and about their local stream or river. And one of the things, Rachel pointed out that in the US, number one motivator was concern for water quality. Number two was protection and restoration. Number three was contributing to science. Definitely, that did not surprise me that those are the top responses that she found. I think that especially the contributing to science, it comes up a lot talking to volunteers and thinking about and learning about the longevity of our volunteers, in that they want their data to be used, they want it to be useful, and sometimes are willing to even drive further to a site that's further away from their home compared to a monitoring site that might be closer. I'm willing to drive further because if it's data that really needs to be collected, that somebody really wants to have or to use. So I think I definitely was not surprised by those motivations. And what I had been thinking about over the years was that with the knowledge that our volunteers gain as they monitor their local stream or river, one site, maybe several sites, is that that local volunteer really becomes the expert on that body of water for that site. And they becoming that expert, learning about the stream through the data that they are collecting, really positions the volunteer to be uniquely equipped to be a local resource in their community, to anticipate and address the water quality and the community issues that arise around that water resource. So that's what I had really been thinking about, was with all of the knowledge, all of the, equipped with the data as a volunteer, what could the volunteers be doing, or what are they doing? But especially, what could they be doing with that data uh, and with that special knowledge that they have as being a local expert in their stream because of that data they've been collecting. All of that was rattling around in my brain. I kept coming up with this phrase, from data to action, and that the volunteers do such a great job with data. What could they do that would be more action oriented than what they maybe currently were doing? So to learn more about that and to get started, in the fall of 2018, I presented a session at the Rock River Coalition volunteer monitoring event, and really talked about that idea of data to action. What are you currently using your data for? How are you involved in the community around that data that you collect? And what are you willing to do that you're not currently doing? The responses from that program helped inform this larger project that I started putting together after I started working with Sarah Schlosser. We came up with this title, as you see on the screen, and the survey was designed, or the survey design was adapted from the work of May Davenport from the University of Minnesota. Davenport and CCAMP have a multi-level community capacity model that we read about and incorporated into this research. It's really about understanding the capacity for communities to engage in water resource protection and restoration. And the framework looks at a member or individual capacity, relational, organizational, and programmatic capacity, but we really concentrated on that individual level. Volunteer monitor as an individual member of their community. What is their capacity? Through their work, we adopted 4 core indicators of capacity that they had talked about in their research. And you can see those there: awareness of and concern about the issue, having or feeling a personal sense of responsibility to be involved, how much control is perceived, and then the efficacy, ability, and behavior. During the summer of 2020, so just this past summer, the survey was sent to over 600 participants of the Water Action Volunteers program who were active volunteers, and we define that as having collected data in 2017, 2018, or 2019, collected and reported data. And you can see that we had over a 50% response rate. So yay, volunteers. So what did we learn? What did we ask specifically? What did we learn? What you're going to see on the slide, the next one as it comes up on your live stream, the first question was about awareness of stream-related resource concerns. On the far right, there is the number of responses. So it wasn't always 316. Some respondents skipped some questions, but still over 300 responses. So how aware are you of these resource concerns, such as stream bank erosion and in-stream sedimentation and fluctuating water levels? Respondents had the choice, had 5 choices. So they could choose extremely aware, very aware, moderately, slightly, or not at all. For the purpose of the graph, we combined extremely and very, and moderately and slightly, because it's kind of a fine line there anyway. So what we see here is that more than half of the respondents, 54 to 69%, were either extremely or very aware of most of these concerns in their watershed. And really only the riparian buffer width at 44% under the extremely and very concerned was low, or was less than 50%, still not low. The remaining concerns, had similar levels of awareness, all of them between 50 and 60%. So aware of these concerns, very aware, only riparian buffer width had less than 44% at extremely or very aware. Then we looked at, after thinking about how aware are you of these concerns or of these issues, how concerned are you about the following things going on in the watershed? How concerned are you about stream bank erosion, about in-stream sedimentation, about fluctuating water levels? And respondents, again, are extremely or very concerned, 66 to 78%. You can see down at the bottom, water quality, 78% of the respondents extremely or very concerned with water quality. Nutrient levels in the stream, loss of stream habitat, also 69 and 66%. So, extremely or very concerned. Again, other than fluctuating water levels and riparian buffer width, everything else was over 50% of the respondents were in that extremely or very concerned category. The next question continued to probe into that. How concerned are you? The concern of the volunteers over some of the specific issues in the watershed. But these were really about actions. So how concerned are you about landowners' actions negatively impacting the health of your watershed? How concerned are you about insufficient action by local policymakers, insufficient action by natural resource organizations, or low level of youth engagement? In general, the majority of respondents are concerned about all of these aspects to some degree, but over 2/3 were extremely or very concerned about the landowner actions, the insufficient action by local policymakers, and the lack of public awareness. Those were the top 3. We then moved on to factors negatively impacting the health of the watershed. And in your opinion, are the following factors negatively impacting the health of the watershed? What we see here is that respondents basically feel that all of these factors are negatively impacting the watershed's health. Very high nutrient levels in the stream, 88% said yes, nutrient levels in the stream are negatively impacting the health of the watershed. on down. Even the lowest, 65% said yes, fluctuating water levels are negatively impacting the health of our watershed. So then we really get into, the idea that I had of taking action around the data that we collect. So the next question, do you think the wave data that you are collecting or have collected can be used to inform the following, can be used to inform local natural resource organizations' actions? Can your data be used? Do you think your data can be used to inform community action, local news stories, local policy? And here again, respondents overwhelmingly believed that their data was useful for informing all of these local types of activities. The local policy, social media, youth engagement. Then the next question, the follow-up to that was, to what extent do you agree or disagree with the following statements related to the use of your data? And this is just a little bit different way of asking or getting at some similar types of things as what was in the last slide. To what extent do you agree or disagree with, by being a WAVE volunteer, you are contributing to the protection and restoration of the watershed? That your WAVE data can be used for restoration and protection. By using your WAVE data to engage with natural resource organizations or the community or policymakers. So to what extent do you agree with or the following statements related to the use of your data? Again, respondents overwhelmingly agreed that they are contributing to watershed protection and restoration. In the next slide, what extent do you agree or disagree with this statement? And this is really one where we start to separate out a little bit, because this asks about personal responsibility to share your data. How do you agree or disagree that it is your personal responsibility to share your data? And here we actually get fewer than half that agreed to any one of the statements about having that personal responsibility. And between 32 and 43% neither agreed or disagreed. They were kind of in the middle about that question about personal responsibility to use their data. Then a couple of questions about having the knowledge and skills, first in this slide, to use the data to be involved in these various activities or actions. So in this slide, I have the knowledge and skills to use my WAVE data to increase awareness in the community, to engage youth, to discuss topics. And we can see that about 1/3 to slightly over a half of the respondents believed that they did have the knowledge and skills needed to be active in these types of things, to take these actions. But then going from having the knowledge and skills to having the resources needed to take these actions, then we see a lower percentage that agree or disagree, or agree or strongly agree. So here I have the resources I need to use my WAVE data. Strongly agree or agree, it's from 33% down to 21%. And finally, two more questions about some specific activities. Remember, this was administered in the summer of 2020, so we did have kind of a COVID-19 disclaimer there. Have you done any of the following activities in the past 12 months? There's a list there with 21% saying they've engaged youth in some of the activities. And then surprisingly, 80% said that the COVID-19 did not affect their, whether they were engaged in those activities or not. But then in the next question, if you were given access to more support and resources, how likely would you be to take some of these actions? Again, pretty low percentages, but we're up into the 28, 26, 25%. Specifically, I was surprised that the engaging with local policymakers came up as the higher in the higher percentage here of likely or extremely likely. But here, 58% only said that their actions would not be affected by COVID. 42% said that they would be. So in summary, research on the readiness to engage civically. Our WAVE volunteers are aware of the issues, concerned about them. They believe their data can be used to inform and engage. They have the knowledge and skills, but less so the resources to engage. Nearly 80% have not used data in these actions or activities, but about 1/4 of them are willing to take some action. Our next steps: develop an engagement strategy and resources, and then share those, of course, with the WAVE volunteers. Just like to again thank my project team and thank you for your time today.